Well, ladies and gentlemen, it is 6 o'clock. If you would join us for the flag salute. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you very much. We have one item, one small order of business to take care of before we do the open public meeting hearing. And it is action item general fund voucher 18037 for $899.76, which is the 941 tax. Is that correct, the 941 tax? Yes. That we're required to do?
Correction?
Yeah, it's a correction.
Gotcha.
So I need a motion?
I would move that we approve voucher 18-037.
I'll second it. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye, so moved. All right, thank you very much. Well, welcome. Yes.
It's not coming.
So I'm going to officially, well, first of all, we're going to begin with a brief PowerPoint presentation on the 2018 Comprehensive Scheme of Harbor Improvements. And then we'll open the floor up for questions and take your comments. We will also accept written comments through February 15th. Matter of fact, you have surveys on your chairs right there. So I'm asking you to please hold your questions until the end of the presentation so we can get through all the projects. By the way, we do have some refreshments, so please enjoy yourself. And go ahead. Oh, well, I think I forgot to officially open up the public hearing for the Comprehensive Scheme of Harbor Improvements. So it is now open.
Okay. Just in case, for those of you who don't know, this is Judy Scott. She is the chair of the Port Commission. I'm Larry Coppola. I am the executive director. And Scott Cooper, the vice chair of the commission, former chair, and Leanne Dennis, our operations manager. So our inventory of current assets. What do we own? What do we have to work with? We have the port's main office building and meeting facility, which is this building here, and our offices upstairs. The waterfront park, which I'm sure you're all familiar with. The gazebo, which I'm sure you're all familiar with. The dock over here. The boat launch ramp and floating dock. Then down the street we have the Allyn Kayak Park. We have the waterfront park restroom facility. We have restrooms here in case anybody. You don't have to go outside. The North Shore Boat Launch Ramp, the Sergeant Oyster House Building, North Shore Marina on Hood Canal, the North Shore Dock on Hood Canal, the Allyn Kayak Park Restroom Facility, the Allyn Kayak Park Storage Shed, North Shore Boat Launch and Parking Areas, the Lakeland Drive Sidewalk, the North Shore Boat Launch and Electronic Pay Station, Port of Allyn Water Company, the Allyn Kayak Park Restroom and Bridal Changing Facility, and the Port of Allyn Water Company Storage Park. So these are just some pictures of those facilities if you're not familiar with them. So I'll just run through them real quick here. So.
And those pictures, of course, are also scattered all over here. Thank you, Larry. The port has also undertaken a citizen survey to gauge the reaction of our local residents of the district. You can find a link to the survey on our website at portofallyn.com and on our Facebook page. And as I mentioned before, on the clipboards are located on your chairs. So there we go.
Okay, the proposed projects that we have for 2018 are the following. We want to continue the series of ongoing classes for new entrepreneurs, develop a regional destination youth sports complex, bring water and power to the Allyn Marina, complete the Sergeant Oyster House restoration project, develop Sweetwater Park, build a trail system linking Belfair State Park and the Theller Trails, develop a business light industrial park, and build a skateboard park at Beards Cove. Now, why do we want to continue the series of classes for new entrepreneurs? This is a long-term economic development activity, which is every port's core mission. This was done in partnership with the North Mason Chamber, the North Mason EDC, and Enterprise for Equity. Our community needs more entrepreneurs because they create jobs. We've generated a quantifiable community return on what's been actually a minimal investment on the part of the port in this program. Local residents took advantage of the program, and opened or expanded businesses created local jobs to validate sustaining the program. The program has enough impact to justify continuing it on an ongoing basis. Port's becoming recognized within the district as a main resource to learn about job creation and receive business education.
Another project that we've been looking at is to develop a regional destination youth sports complex. The picture that you see is the Luke Jensen Sports Park in Vancouver. And I took a trip there with Larry and took a look at it, and this place particularly is busy all year round. It would bring in lots of jobs and also support this whole community in a good way. Larry?
So how will North Mason County benefit from a destination sports complex? Something you may not know, there are no soccer fields between Silverdale and Shelton except at the high school. Every week of the year, hundreds of soccer players and their families travel statewide for tournament play. So do adult and girls softball teams, as well as select league baseball teams during baseball season. I have a 14-year-old who plays soccer and plays baseball, so I'm familiar with how all this works. Traveling to these tournaments means that players and their families stay in local hotels, eat in local restaurants, buy food at local grocery stores and convenience stores, and even buy gas at local gas stations to get home. So it's a well-documented fact that every tournament day brings at least $75,000 into your local community, into the host community, by those traveling amateur athletes and their families. Operating such a facility has the potential to generate substantial revenue for the port in the form of league rental fees, as well as from other things like food and other concessions. If we build it near the county line, the facility will attract sports teams from both Kitsap and Mason counties, because Kitsap County has the same problem, no soccer fields. And it'll help development of new hotels and restaurants, which will create new jobs and other business opportunities. And finally, it'll expose Mason County to people from out of the area, lots of them, and they may consider investing here.
The next one is to add water and power to the Allyn Marina. So you want to let me read that one? It will make the Allyn Marina much more attractive as a boating destination. It'll be easier to promote Allyn and as a destination within the regional boating community. It will generate additional revenue for the port in fees for launching, moorage, parking, and electricity. It will create local economic development as additional numbers of visiting boaters will spend more money in our community. Many of those visiting boaters will return and spend additional money in our local community. The Allyn Community Association has done a survey which found this project was to bring in an additional $375,000 in new annual revenue to the local Allyn businesses.
Next project is to complete the Sergeant Oyster House project. But to go back to the marina for a second, we have applied for a grant called the BIG grant. It stands for Boating Infrastructure Grant. It's federal dollars. It had to pass through the local or the state Recreation Conservation Office. We made it past that hurdle, and it is at the federal level now. Congressman Kilmer has told me 2 weeks ago that he would advocate for that project for us to get that money to do this project. So, back to the Sergeant Oyster House.
This project is considered an economic development because when completed, it will generate what is known as cultural heritage tourism. And it will make our waterfront park an additional destination for those tourists, complementing our already well-established local tourism industry. While the port owns the building itself, the taxpayers are only minimally invested in this project, primarily for permitting costs. The vast majority of the funding has come from the grants from local people, the state, tribes, and monies raised by the North Bay Historical Society, which is doing the actual restoration, not the port. The Oyster House is a part of Allyn's history and provides an opportunity for education about the area and its traditional oyster farming industry, which still thrives today. It is one of the very few remaining historical oyster processing buildings still in existence, and it deserves to be preserved. Just wanted to give you a little update. Also on the back, if you want to look at the Sergeant Oyster processing restoration, it's a project status. We've completed a great amount already. We've consulted with the Department of State Archaeological and Historic Preservation to confirm its historic nature of the building. Also with State Historic Preservation Architect, Nicholas Van, has determined the feasibility of the project. And we've been moving. We've cleaned up the building. It doesn't look like it right now, but it really is. We've had conceptual engineered drawings, thank you to Mike Ross. Initial permit work and pre-submission meeting with the county. There's been a letter from the county stating the project meets all the requirements for the overwater placement, and the asbestos has been removed. In the process, we're still working on the Fish and Wildlife and HPA permit, and Mason County shoreline permits in process and stabilization. This weekend, we're going to be removing the concrete out of the old concrete out of the building.
Our next project is developing Sweetwater Park in partnership with the Pacific Northwest Salmon Center. Excuse me. How will developing Sweetwater Park in partnership with the Salmon Center benefit North Mason County? It will provide yet one more public park amenity for local citizens. It will be handicapped accessible, meaning people with disabilities will have full access to all aspects and all areas of a local park, a first for Mason County. It will be another location for ecotourist visitors to the Theller Trails to access, and it will help generate additional tourism. It will reclaim what once was a contaminated brownfield site, which was cleaned up thanks to an EPA grant, to be open to public use. It'll create a public park in the area of downtown Belfair where there's only one other, Bill Hunter Park, which has no restroom facilities and is not handicapped accessible either, and it will tie into the proposed trail system for North Mason County.
Next one is to participate in the development of the Lower Hood Canal Discovery Trail. And the trail will connect Belfair State Park and Theller Trails. The trail will make walking and biking along North Shore Road much safer. Yay. The trail will become part of a much larger network of the local community trails now in existence and being expanded. The construction of the trail will also help preserve some existing wetlands, will include some repaving of Gladwin Road, as well as add 12 and 18-inch storm drains. And then pedestrian bridges will be added over the Union River and Mission Creek. The Port of Allyn will act as the lead agency, managing construction of the trail for which it will be compensated. If we have any other questions, we'll talk about that later. Sorry, go ahead.
Okay, the next project is to develop a light industrial park. And how will developing a light industrial park benefit North Mason County? It'll provide a centrally located alternative facility to both the Port of Bremerton's Olympic View Industrial Park and the Port of Shelton's Industrial Park at Sanderson Field. It will offer local businesses a brand new state-of-the-art venue which doesn't currently exist in North Mason County. Depending upon the final location, positioned within reasonable proximity of the Belfair bypass, it could offer easier access to transportation than any of those existing facilities. It could jumpstart a manufacturing and/or tech industry cluster here in North Mason County, and new businesses locating at such a facility or existing businesses expanding to it are going to create new jobs for our area. And finally, our last project is to build a skateboard park at Beards Cove. And how will building a skateboard park at Beards Cove benefit North Mason County? Well, skateboard parks are most successful and receive the most use in places that are in close proximity to neighborhoods where skaters live. Duh. It'll attract skaters from places besides Beards Cove, It'll reduce the number of skaters using public right-of-way like parks and sidewalks and on private property such as shopping centers. Beards Cove Community Association has agreed to take ownership of the skateboard park and be responsible for all maintenance and upkeep. Port of Allyn will have no cost, no financial liability once ownership is transferred.
Okay, that concludes our project list. And at this point, we'll open up the floor to questions and comments. Kat?
How are we gonna pay for it?
Mostly through grants.
We knew somebody would ask that.
Well, I know, that's why I took the top one.
I do have to say too, with the trails, the regional trail, we have Pat McCauley here to answer any of those questions as well. But most of this is through grants.
Okay.
As you know, the port doesn't have all that much. But-
And we don't have much money, but what we can use the money we do have for is the match. And a lot of the grants are you can use in-kind matches, and on some of these projects we can do the work ourselves here in-house, like the dock project for power and water. We can't do the power, but we can do the water, and all of our work counts towards the match. So.
And don't forget to fill out those surveys, because it also helps you guys decide how you want to prioritize some of these projects as well.
Yeah, we know that we can't do all these projects, but what we want is the community to help us prioritize what those projects are. Which projects should we do, which projects don't make sense. It's up to you. We want to know what the community thinks. That's why we're all here.
Yeah, I'm Phil Wolf. From Allyn, I guess I'm really excited about the trail that would go, perhaps through Feller, connect over, to the North Shore Road. As a bicycle enthusiast, one of the worst sections of road in this entire county is that section of North Shore Road between, say, Sand Hill Road and UFC.
Highway
So,
3, yeah.
so that, and I'm also on the Transportation Advisory Committee, and as a bicycle representative, so just wanted to mention that. I did the online survey. I felt a little conflicted in a couple places because of the prioritization. Obviously, as a port, and as a former port commissioner, that economic development is the reasons why ports got into existence, and that, and also the moving of, goods, obviously, but recreation, obviously, is important too. I didn't see anything about maybe doing something with the Port of Great View down the road. As you know, right now at the Fair Harbor Marina, you can't, fuel's not available to the public. I mean, it's not easily available to the public.
Oh, that's true.
So, and who knows what's going to happen.
Yeah.
And again, the Sweetwater project, I mean, a lot of these, just like Feller, which now there's a breach in the dike, and, that trail, I mean, that dike also provides, it's a dike to prevent flooding, a Belfair. I have a portion of Belfair. So, that's also important for that aspect. But also at the Sweetwater project, I mean, a lot of these projects have already been developed. They're right there. They're ready to go. It just needs some help. And those two projects should not be part of the school district.
Should not be part of what?
The school district. I mean, our schools are there to educate our children. That's where my tax dollars, that's where my levy goes, not to fund a school park district.
Yeah,
It's
I
to
would agree.
fund school and education.
Great, thank you,
Go
Phil.
ahead.
Brian?
I wanted to just opine on two of the projects. Sweetwater Creek project, I appreciate Phil's comments. None of that will be associated with the school. The school feels the same way Phil does. That's not going to be staying on the school property at all. We're thankful for the Port of Allyn to take over and kind of help us with that project. All the ecology issues that were there before are now resolved, and those are behind us. So we're really shovel ready. We've got our plans to 30% completion, which is where you need to be for grant writing. And that's going to be that's a key part of this whole region and the eco-tourism and the projects and the additions that Pat's talking about, from trails from Belfair State Park to Feller, and then that 1.7 mile extension to the Feller trails, and later the top trail that goes over the top and down to Coulter Creek and into Allyn will be a regional draw. That will be a place, a very unique trail from estuary to estuary, from Hood Canal to Case Inlet. It will draw people from all over the region, all over the Northwest. So that will be an economic driver, which is really, really exciting. And although I can't reveal it tonight, we do have some really exciting news on some funding that is going to be coming through for that Sweetwater Creek project. So that'll be released shortly, but it's we just got done doing a little happy dance. So it's pretty exciting stuff. We've worked on that project for over 10 years, and it's, you know, finally we're seeing some stuff come to fruition. So it's happy time. The second one, I know I've conveyed this already, but I would suggest that we really give a lot of thought, a lot of analysis to that recreational soccer field park project. We've got Pendergast in Bremerton that's not, they're not flooding in dollars, and they're, you know, from everything I've heard, they're not really making money hand over fist. There's another large park project going. They just acquired some land in Gig Harbor, 12 acres that's going in. So a like project that you're talking about. And, you know, the project that we've talked about that you've compared to is in Vancouver, Washington, which is a huge area, and it's 15 minutes from Portland, where there's millions of people. So I think the economies of scale are significantly different in those locations in terms of generating income or its potential generation of income. So food for thought to think about before we invest port tax dollars or IDDs in soccer fields, as opposed to light industrial and creating jobs. Lastly, I would ask the port to put another project on there. If you really want to make a game changer that could make us have a competitive edge compared to whether it's Bremerton's Port District and their opportunities for drawing in businesses, or even in comparison to some of the stuff that I know they've got some great opportunities in Shelton, but why don't you look into and consider partnering with the county on a purple pipe project off the sewer lines? And if you guys were to just do that and feed a purple pipe loop into our industrial lands on the top of the hill, and we could use that because, unfortunately, Belfair has some of the highest water rates in the state, and Belfair Water's rate scale does not help large businesses and doesn't give any relief for large business use.
Brian, could you explain what purple pipe is to the people that don't?
Yes, so purple pipe would be taking reclaimed water from the sewer system that is just, purportedly, it's just, I guess, one step below potable water, but it's still very usable for a lot of different uses for light industrial. So, you know, the old owner of Hard Rock Cement told me a long time ago, if we had purple pipe water and we had decreased water expenses, he wouldn't have had to move his company out in about 16 jobs in Mason County because of the cost of water for Belfair Water. So, you know, it would be an amazing partnership that would truly be a difference maker, where you could have a low cost of water, and that could be one of the calling cards to draw people into Belfair. And uses that use high water, they could use purple pipe water all day long and save a ton of money.
Yeah, good point.
So that would be really, really effective in going with the industrial park development. And I think the county would probably be, the people I've talked to at the county would be supporters of a project like that. Food for thought.
Yeah, thank you, Brian.
Okay, you had a question
Yeah,
or
I have
comment?
a question. We just moved to Allyn, nobody knows us. My name is Kelly. My family has lived in Greatview for like 30 years. And I have a business in Bremerton. I have 2 businesses in Bremerton, and one of my businesses is swim coaching. So I'm the one that made the comment about maybe we should have a swim pool. I think if you guys did move in the direction of having a recreational facility, I would just strongly urge you to consider having an aquatics facility also, or as some kind of a hybrid aquatics facility, because you have the water out here. And I really like your purple pipe idea, because I definitely think that everyone in the world should move in the direction of being a little more like environmentally friendly. And so we're like reusing water, right, with your idea.
Yep.
And so along those lines, a soccer field, even though I totally advocate for sports and stuff like that, you know, you are going to have fertilization that's going to go in the water, and it's going to pollute the already fragile ecosystem and the salmon that's like right here, you know, like runoff and stuff like that. So if there was a way around that, I just want to urge people to like consider, if you were going to go in that direction, let's think about using like environmentally friendly fertilizers or things that we know can break down and aren't going to harm like an ecosystem. And I still want to push the swimming thing a little bit, because I know that, I mean, North Nation High School, they have a soccer team, I'm going to assume. They have a soccer team?
Yes, we also have a swimming team.
Oh,
but
so
they
where
have
do
to
they
go all the
swim?
way to Peninsula to practice.
Exactly.
100% I support building an aquatic center. It's
Yeah.
one of the best economic drivers you can put
Yeah.
in. I would just ask Barkston what happened when they put one in.
Yeah, well,
that the schools could use.
my mom ran an aquatics facility in Cordes. She's really strongly thinking about moving here, but there's nowhere to swim. She doesn't want to go to Bremerton. I mean, nobody wants to go to Bremerton. So, and then the other thing is that you have an aquatic community. You know, you have boaters and you have children, and people need to learn how to swim. It's going to drive the same kind of traffic that you're talking about with like the soccer. Swim teams are huge. You know, people are going to come here to swim. Big teams are going to come here. I grew up competitive swimming in Olympia. We used to have to go to Shelton to swim, and I don't know if you've ever been to that pool, but yeah, it's just not even a pool, right? It's not even 25 yards.
You can't
Not
do
even-
an official race. So-
Can't do anything official there. You can't get official times. There's absolutely no facility, and Bremerton has no facility. So there's no community pool. There's high school pools. There's the YMCA that was taken over. That used to be a community pool, taken over by the YMCA. So I have to contract with the Navy in order to get into a pool, you know what I mean, which I have. my-
There is a community pool in Port Orchard.
As a
It's,
high school?
yes.
It's being closed.
Well, no, it's undergoing some renovations and
Right.
should be open in about the next 60 days.
Yeah, and so it's hard to tell when pools like that will open. But
I'm
that's,
just telling you.
yeah.
But if I can jump in and support her argument for a community pool, our kids need that. We've been looking for that for decades in this community.
Yeah.
And like you said, we're an aquatic community. We have people drown every year. We need to be able to have people taking lessons and being effective. If we had a pool, we could make passing a swimming test part of graduation requirements, like it is in many other communities that are aquatic communities around the state. It would just be very powerful for kids, and it would keep them busy in a safe and healthy way all throughout the year.
It's not just about kids, right? It's also about adults. People have to rehab. You have an older community here, you know what I mean? There's rehab options available in aquatics. I mean, aquatics is huge. It's a whole nother world. You know, I don't need to go spend all your time talking about aquatics, but I do feel like that would really bring everything you're talking about to this community. And then an alternative to not building a pool, because I know that's a really big deal, would just be like, let's block off some space in the sound. I mean, I'm an open water swimmer. I swim out here in the summer. I swim in Greatview. It's not safe. People don't go by the speed limits. You know, they come in too close to shore with their boats. They're going too fast. They're drinking whatever. You block off a swim zone, you know, like a really nice big swim zone, and give people options. And that's just a couple buoys. And I'm sure someone would donate buoys. People got buoys in Allyn, right?
Okay.
We've seen them, yes.
Yeah.
Thank you.
And Kat?
2 points. One is the sports arena. My concern is not all soccer games are just on one day and go home. They are over the weekend. They are tournaments. Where are we going to house these people?
Well, the thought is that somebody will build a hotel to accommodate them.
Well, how many are on a team, and then plus the birds of the team, and then the coaches and all of it. We're looking at I know there have been some hotels that have contacted the chamber because of the bypass and are interested out here, but we have to look at that, part of it. Plus our infrastructure, which then goes to the industrial park. Are we set up for that? Because in and out one way doesn't necessarily bring something. And do you have a site or an area where you're thinking of doing that?
Yes, we do, actually.
You
We
do?
don't have a site. We know where we'd like to have it.
And where is that?
Near the proposed park and ride.
Can you let some of us know where the new proposed park and ride is?
I'll defer to Commissioner Netherland.
The park and ride has already been purchased, not proposed, it is happening. Several $1 million is being invested up on the top of the hill, across the street from Log Yard Road.
Oh, you mean, okay, got in Belfair. That's where you want to do it. Oh, okay, I was thinking the Allyn area.
No.
Okay.
Now, the Port District, a lot of people think the Port District goes from, Sherwood Creek Road to the Y. It's actually a lot bigger.
Goes to the Kitsap County line,
Right.
and then out to the Tri-Lakes, Tiger Lake.
Goes east to the Pierce County line.
No, I understood that. I just, for some reason, I always understood it to be somewhere out here in Allyn. But even at that, Belfair, we have a phenomenal road now, but traffic is still backed up. And I'm concerned about the infrastructure, and I know the bypass is coming, before I die, it will be here. But it's just the idea, do we have that infrastructure for the incentive to bring that light industrial out here?
Well, it's my understanding the infrastructure is going to be there.
Okay.
So, and a lot of it's going to be dependent on being able to find a suitable piece of land and one that has expansion potential. So,
And funding.
And funding.
Grants,
and funding.
yeah.
We have several funding options available. We can do an IDD, which is a one-time funding mechanism. We could sell general obligation bonds. We can look for grants. We can borrow money. Being able to do it financially, it can happen. It's what's the best vehicle that's going to cost the taxpayers the least amount of money. But all of these projects are doable. Is there any that you would just chop off the list? Oh, I thought you had a, I'm sorry. Yes, ma'am.
I think for me, in my personal opinion, the skate park is kind of low on the priority list. And maybe there's people in the community that don't want people skating wherever they're skating, right? So maybe they want to put them in one spot. Maybe that's, I don't know what's driving the skate park thing, but.
Good. Thank you.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, one of the comments, I just finished restoration plan there, historic. Their community club is a pretty tight group. I don't know how they let anybody else but community club members in there. It's a pretty difficult situation.
Well,
I can't even get in there now that I'm done with the project.
well, where the proposed site is Santa Maria Park. It's
It's
not.
up in the park, it's not in the park, it's up above.
It's not it. Yeah.
It's right up there,
Yeah. This is where the proposed site.
not the bottom.
And it's kind of a multi-level site, and you can't tell that from the pictures, but the big toy is at a lower level than the basketball courts. And they were
Oh, okay.
thinking they'd have to,
It's not down in the water, is it?
no, it's
Yeah,
up
they
at Santa
realized
Maria
so.
Park.
Well, I have to say, I mean, so when I was a kid, I didn't participate on team sports. I skateboarded, I rode my BMX bike. I see this probably more as a bicycle, I mean, more as a mountain bike, free ride, bicycle, skate, I mean, maybe skateboard. But, you recognize some of the kids, are not going to be on the soccer teams, are not going to be in the baseball team. And this gives them an outlet, and I wouldn't. And, let's face it, I mean, a big percentage of Belfair lives in Beardsville.
Yeah, you got to put the skateboard park where the kids are.
Right,
Yeah.
right.
That's why we thought that'd be the best
Yeah,
spot.
I agree.
Some people suggested doing it here in Allyn. Some people suggested doing it like at Bill Hunter Park and that property behind it. But those don't really make a lot of sense because there's not a lot of kids that live in those areas.
Well, plus maintenance, like Bill Hunter Park.
Yeah.
I mean, just the vulnerability to it, whereas with Beards Cove, at least it's controlled.
Yeah.
One other
If we
comment
do.
on the swimming pool. 8 years ago, I was on a committee for 6 months. We developed drawings, cost estimates, had a group in Allyn that was really excited about swimming pool. So we got the price. And everybody kind of laughed.
I remember that really well. It was really tough because of the cost, maintenance,
Yeah.
and the size of the community. I think that's what was so difficult. Because I agree, I mean, we do need a place to swim, to learn to swim. I agree. But that's what we ran up against was the cost because the community wasn't really big enough to support. I think.
But if you get started and you want to do it, I've got all the files in the computer.
Great.
That's good to know.
Help you right out.
But the community could partner with like the YMCA and South Puget Sound to bring an organization that would help support something like a swimming pool here as much as Shelton can do that. We have just as many folks who will use this situation. But if we look at partnerships, and the PERC would be a really good group to take the lead in building that kind of a partnership. That's great.
I also think that thinking outside the box is, it's like 2018, I mean, I'm sure the plans that everyone drew were really nice, and thinking outside the box, like I've worked with the Biomechanics Institute of Sweden, they're international, and so people aren't building square pools anymore, they're building just really unique pools that aid people in like learn to swim and they aid people in like swimming fast. And so since you have a bunch of salt water here, I think that with some creativity, I think there's a way to build kind of a hybrid pool, maybe a summer swimming facility that's kind of in the water in a way. People did it in Hawaii. They've closed down some of those facilities now, but they used to just like let the tide come in kind of thing and like fill it up and let it go or whatever. And I know it's a little muddier here than Hawaii, but I just think that with some creativity and then some planning, I think it could happen and it could be so unique and special that people would come just for that. I mean, like I traveled to Vancouver, BC because they have unique pools.
Yeah, I grew up in that, Belfair State Park. That was exactly what they did.
Hey.
Donna has a kiddie pool with a tidal gate.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, I grew up in Fort Lauderdale, Florida, where the Swimming Hall of Fame is. So.
Okay, cool. Yeah, so we could do this, right? Is that what you're saying?
Kat?
A number of years ago, when the Renaissance Fair wanted to come out here, and there was a problem with too many long feet of, board feet of whatever, trees, has anybody considered doing something out in that property since it was already being prepared?
I hadn't thought about that. Department of Natural Resource owns all that land.
Okay.
So he was trying to make a deal with them.
Right.
Unfortunately, it became kind
I
of.
think he wasn't DNR, he was trying to make a deal with,
Oh,
Pope Resources.
You're right. That's correct. That's right.
And there's a couple community individuals that didn't want it.
I
No,
know.
there's just
That's what
one.
was sad. Yeah, that's what was sad.
Senator Sheldon.
Well, there was also community members
Yeah.
as well, yeah.
But I'm
Well,
thinking,
it's all-
okay, that's the Renaissance Fair, but what about Port Valley doing something there?
Well, it's possible.
I mean, because that's a little bit flatter land than some other places.
Yeah, but zoning can be a big deal.
Right.
Because that is designated forest land right now. So that's something we would have to consider. That's why all these projects are places that are mixed use or
Okay.
industrial. And as you know, to change anything for zoning, that's a major undertaking, so. But it's, hey, anything's possible.
Maybe we can get a racetrack, who knows?
Yeah, I know that they're looking at one, the Public Facilities District in Kitsap County is looking at a new racetrack. Yes.
They've already got a lease.
We have 75 acres right off the bypass, as you come onto the bypass to go. It's all basically zoned for shopping center. Commercial.
Is that Overton property?
Yeah. That's a beautiful chunk of property. If we had a sports center, that could all go together quite nicely.
Well, we had some discussions with David Overton, and the door is open to doing something there. So,
Yeah.
but we have talked, so.
Anybody else?
Yeah, yes. Apparently I'm a little chatty tonight.
Tonight? Sorry.
Have you been able to look at all of the online surveys?
I have not.
I have looked at some of them.
Some of them, okay. I wondered if
We're
there's-
still getting results in, we're getting them in every day.
Okay. I just wondered if there was something that sparked an interest that came through that, you know, you go, ooh, that would be a cool one.
The sports complex is definitely getting a lot of attention.
Well, I meant under the other, there's a thing, is there anything else you'd like to see the port do?
Yeah, there hasn't been any consensus about anything in particular.
Okay, well then, since I have a forum, I am thrilled to death that there are murals in Belfair, but I would really like to see them cleaned up, and I know I've talked to Doc Peterson. They're difficult to clean at the railroad. I mean, it's difficult.
Yeah.
But it's muddy.
Yeah.
And I know in the couple of years that there's been the one, I can't remember the name of the street in Silverdale, how dirty it got so fast. People didn't realize, and I'm going, my comment was could we clean them up coming in and out of Belfair? And my main concern is out of Belfair and into Allyn. Good graffiti is phenomenal art. If we could just get the school art students to do the graffiti, and if that means a contest or anything, I'm all for it, because it really looks like, I don't want to use a colloquial term, but haven. I would love to see some good art, and it could be a contest. The kids, seniors could pay for it and have an art student do it, and whatever their graffiti wanted to be, and the money could go to the senior party, so it all stays within the school, and that's so that nobody tags anywhere else in town and all that, and I get it. But could we clean it up, because it really is embarrassing to bring people in and they look at it and go, whoa.
Yeah.
I love good graffiti.
Yeah. Some of it is really good.
So, you know, and we've got phenomenal art students, not just in the high school, but in some of the lower grades as well. It would be great to see that taken over and really brought to be something to be proud of.
Well, you know, I come to work every day on Highway 3, and every time I go over that overpass, or under that overpass, I think somebody should power wash this. Oh.
It's a good point though, Kat. Anything?
Just so everybody knows, we had 2 years ago, this is the list of projects that we put together. We prioritized it the best we could. We want the input so we can reprioritize it. We need, you know, we work for you, so you tell us what you want on that priority list, and we'll do the best of our ability to work on the projects that are the most viable for us and what the community wants. I mean, we might say that we want to do this, but if you say something different, or if the community at large says something different, you know, we're not stuck on any one of them.
Yeah, we're not married to anything here. So, and we need to make that real clear. The Oyster House is in progress, and it's going to go forward no matter what. The dock is going to go forward if we get the funding. If we don't get the funding, we'll look for a secondary source of funding. But it's, you know, we're pretty sure we're going to get it funded. The rest of the stuff, it's all up in the air. You know, it's up to the people here. That's what this is all about. The Recreation and Conservation Office, which is where a lot of the grant funding comes from for our kind of projects, they want to see a lot of public process, and that's why we're doing this here. So, we just want everybody to know what the motivation is.
I might add too, one of the reasons why we do this is specifically for those grants. If there's a project that, we get a big brainstorm to do and it's not on our list, we will not get funding for it.
Yeah.
So that's why it's really important that we go through this process, and if there's, the aquatic lands or the Sweetwater Park that we need to get it on the list, then we make sure that it's there so that when the people who give the grants out, they see that we are planning ahead for it, then that's what we need this for.
So with that, we have any other last comments or questions?
Good presentation.
Can we put that on the list then, the aquatics thing?
Yeah, we'll put it
Sure.
on there. Yeah,
Okay, cool.
we'll put it on.
I think we should.
Okay, cool.
Not that it'll get done tomorrow or
Right,
next
no
year,
worries.
but again, because again, like Pat had said, Mr. McCullough, that it had a lot of power behind it, but again, it was not enough money, so.
And a lot of times, there are special grants for special types of projects, and we can look for that type of project. And, if there's grant money available specifically for that, we can apply for it.
Totally, yeah, and especially like we were saying with aquatics, like if there's grants that are like more for like rehab aquatics, lean that way, right? And if there's grants for kids, in aquatics, lean that way. And there's other ways, that aquatics can serve. Like working with the military, I do clinics for them, and they, it's a safety grant that they get, because swimming is a safety skill. So that's the way that they lean towards like the safety
Yeah,
skill.
it's real interesting reading the grant material because things that you wouldn't expect, like that.
The life-saving skill, I think, is the word.
Yeah, so, we're interested in saving lives, here's some money, build a pool.
Exactly.
So, but we can be on the lookout for that kind of stuff.
Cool.
What it is this is information gathering for us.
Do you have any questions for us at all? So far, so good. Thank you, Commissioner Netherland, for being here. Appreciate it. Okay, without further ado, thank you very much for attending. Now you all have time to go to the North Mason Community Voice. Oh.
We had
Okay,
one more little thing here.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, let me read this. It concludes our presentation, so I want to thank you again. Please remember that, the surveys have to be in by February 15th, whether you hand carry them or mail them in or whatever you want to do. So
We have to submit our plan to RCO by March 1st, and we need time to collate all that information and put it together in a package that is acceptable to them. So,
all right. Thank you again, and good night.
Thank you.